the situation with the bloodline and the story and how this has all gone really has captivated wrestling audiences and is getting casual fans and people that may not be that interested in wrestling in the first place to maybe come into the fold a little bit.
And that's all Triple H, right?
I would say so. I mean, well, you know, and the one thing to say, you know, and it's interesting when you talk about, you know, whose fault is, or whose responsibility this is. You know, this storyline really started back in 2020 with Jay and Roman facing off when Jay won a 5-way match to get a title shot. They wrestled a Clash of the Champions, then had the rematch at Hell in a Cell, which then, you know, where Roman was going to crush Jimmy. He was already hurt. And
had Jimmy in the guillotine.
And, you know, Jay submitted, and then that put them behind Roman for the bloodline, and off this whole thing went. And then the interjection of Sami, which was supposed to be just a few-week thing, ended up, you know, taking this thing to another level. Solo comes in.
Solo. I think Solo is a forgotten man as far as the bloodline goes, but is so important in the bloodline.
Yeah, I mean, this has been so well done, and
it's been so well done that Sami Zayn should be nominated for an Emmy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It's a TV show.
That's
what Michael Cole said too. Yes,
I will say this, that, you know, we've seen promos and segments done where it's just been absolutely miserable. I mean, this stuff is at least soap opera quality.
It is.
They've been doing a really good job.
It's one of the most compelling stories I remember seeing in WWE.
It's gonna be there forever. There's no question about it. And, you know, we saw it extended on SmackDown, and now they're going to have at Elimination Chamber in a couple of weeks, and it's hard to believe that's just a couple of weeks away.
I mean, they were
Roman and Sami facing off for the title.
One of the things that, you know, when Roman was the big heel, he was still getting cheered some, but at the end of the Royal Rumble, they were chanting "F you, Roman."
Right.
And that to me was a huge move, because that means they were not, for once, not cheering him as the heel. They were actually booing him.
Yeah, and you could hear it on SmackDown too, that there was not a lot of love for Roman Reigns in the building, and that was definitely a different twist, because, as you said, they've been cheering Roman so hard, even though he's the bad guy.
Right.
Not anymore.
No.
And it's a fascinating twist. Joe, what are your thoughts on where everything is right now?
My thoughts are, you know, it's amazing that for years we just bash WWE, the storylines. They are capable. The question is, are they willing to do it? And they really decided on this one. And again, maybe it was the momentum, and they kept it going, and maybe there was times they probably wanted to drop it, but it was so popular and it was so well done that I'm not even sure I can think of another time where I'm like, man, this was a really good storyline WWE put together. Like, this one over 5-10 years is by far the best one, because they created stars, and that's the most important thing. You know, the Usos, they were a great tag team, big deal. But now it's like they're on a different level. Roman Reigns, many people felt, man, this guy needs to be a heel. They hate him. And by making him what he was, he became beloved. And then Sami Zayn steps in, and he's always been a marginal player, and you know, the Johnny Knoxville match, and he's the fun guy, and he's in, he's out, he's in, he's out, and now he's been made a superstar. And Solo comes up with little to no experience in NXT, and he's quickly considered a top guy. So that storyline wasn't about making Roman Reigns a star. It was about making 5 people a star. And that's like almost never been done.
And I think a perfect example of this is, you look back a year ago, if you would have said, okay, Sami Zayn's going to challenge for the WWE title.
Oh, I told you, you're nuts.
There was not even that. It was, okay, he has no chance to win. Now going into Elimination Chamber, other than the fact that we think Roman's got to defend against Cody at WrestleMania, you think, you know what? Sami has a legit shot to beat Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber.
Right, but Cody Rhodes basically ruined it all by coming back. It's like we have to force this guy. I thought I wasn't there last week because I had my show, but I thought the Rumble was terribly done. It was overly predictable, and it's like, okay, Cody's back. Let's instill him into this, and it's like he should be nowhere near it right now. They should let this play out, and it's like, well, Roman's defending against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, but he's got a match against Sami Zayn, so it's almost like oh, yeah, let's not worry about that because, Reigns is going to win it. I think it takes away with the Cody Rhodes thing because it was like he had to win. It was predictable. This is what we're going to do. This was the contract. Cody's going to win. Cody's going to win. It's like, I don't care about Cody Rhodes right now. I want this to play out with no end game of Cody Rhodes or The Rock against him when there's still stuff going on. And I think that takes away from it a little bit.
100%. And the other question, and this is a question I brought up to you last week, Mark, which was the whole idea of the Elimination Chamber is to crown a champion, but there's no champion involved in the Elimination Chamber because Roman's having
the United States.
Yeah, I was surprised when they said that's going to be for the United States title. I really was. I felt like, there were some rumors going around that they were going to take one of the belts off Roman in the Elimination Chamber match. And that might have been a really good way, if you were going to do it, to get it off him, one of those off him without diminishing
taking a loss, right?
And so that tactic I question. I'm not sure where they're going with that. I mean, maybe you're setting up.
How are they going to do that? They were going to all of a sudden say, only one after all this time, only one of the titles is up for grabs. I don't think they can do that at this point.
Well, and this goes back to something we've discussed a lot, was putting both belts on Roman. And
this is the problem.
And this is where the issue is really, you should have had Cody going. This would have been great if you had Seth Rollins with one of those belts and sent Cody after him. And then you could have said, yeah, we got a great matchup here, or Brock or Bobby or somebody.
But this is where Paul Heyman actually comes into play, because if let's say Roman takes a loss to Sami at Elimination Chamber, Heyman can say, because he's the legal counsel and he's the guy, he can go, I slipped it in the contract that it was really only for one of the belts, not both, and that's how you can split the belts up. Even though
you say you've said that before, but the thing is, they're announcing it as a universal whatever championship match. Now, after he loses, it's like, only one was on the line. It was like,
well, like I said, and that's where you bring in the Paul Heyman being the wise man.
See,
I'm not saying it's
takes me out of it.
Yeah, it's not a panacea, but that's the one way you can do it.
And you were talking about, the Elimination Chamber is usually for
the heavyweight title. Yeah, that's what makes the Elimination Chamber so exciting. To be honest with you, I don't care if it's for the United States Championship.
No, nobody does. But the thing is, because of the Cody Rhodes thing at Mania, they have to throw out the Sami Zayn match now because they're not going to do it after WrestleMania. So now all of a sudden they're forced within 1 month, because of WrestleMania and what's going on there. It's like they have to give you Zayn and Reigns because it's never going to happen after that, because Reigns is probably not going to be the champion. So now all of a sudden it's like, we got to do it at Elimination Chamber, and that's the only time we can do a singles match between them because we're not going to do it at SmackDown. So now they've cut off everything they've done for 2 years because they got to make sure Cody Rhodes gets his moment at WrestleMania.
Well, what I'm wondering is, do you have a situation where, say, Cody wins on night one of the belts, and you come back with Jey Uso on night two? And, I think it's intriguing that they've kind of pulled Jey out. This is rounding out that storyline from all those years ago. And I almost wonder if something's going to happen on night one that will cost Roman the heavyweight championship, and then you set up Jey and Roman on night two
for the Universal
Championship with all this conflict in the bloodline and Sami flying around and everything else. I'm guessing they're saying that Sami and Kevin are probably going to win the tag titles.
Well, it's funny because you have the Usos have to put up the tag titles this coming Friday against Braun Strowman and Ricochet. Not suggesting that Strowman and Ricochet are going to win, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do if they have the Usos together, or if it's going to be Jimmy and Solo Sikoa defending the titles.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think that would be a great way to round this out. Because if Cody won a championship shot, you could kind of use that and say, well, he's getting a shot at X belt. But
they've already said he's getting the belt. He's getting a shot at what's there. Now it's like that was the whole gimmick of winning the Royal Rumble. You get to become, the opponent for the whole Universal Championship. You're going to just change it 3 weeks before and say, oh, by the way, for the first time ever, that since we've unified the belts, we're only going to put one belt on the line. I don't know if people are going to buy that.
Well, they may.
I don't buy it.
They may have to. They may have to. But we've still got 2 months before WrestleMania happens, so there's plenty of time for twists and turns, boys. That's for sure.